Hey guys, welcome back. Welcome back to another learning video. But before I begin, I have completely solved JNU's 2019 M.A English Entrance question paper. Also, Delhi University's 2018 M.A English Entrance question paper. You may check out the complete series in the description box given below. Another important thing, Finland Academy won't let coronavirus affect your preparation. To join our M.A English Entrance classes, you may call us at 88650-28865 or log on to www.finlandacademy.com for more information or for any details related to the course program. Now let's look at some questions from Delhi University's previous year question papers. Question number 1 that I'm going to look at today is from Delhi University's 2018 M.A English Entrance question paper. It says, let's look at the question here. Read the passage given below and select the most appropriate option. Quote, "As for being poisoned by a book, there is no such thing as that. Art has no influence upon action. It annihilates the desire to act. It is superbly sterile. The books that the world calls immoral are books that show the world its own shame." Unquote. Now let's look at the questions that follow this passage. Alright, now let's look at the question that follows the passage. It says the speaker is implying that option A, books are poisonous which sterilize the world. B, books are the most disgraceful form of art. C, all of these. Or D, art cannot be either moral or immoral. Now these beautiful set of lines that you read here, this dialogue that you read here, first of all, it comes from this work called The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. This dialogue that you read here is exchanged between two important characters in this work. One is called Lord Henry and another Dorian himself. Now here, Dorian, the another character, he criticizes a yellow book, claiming how the book had extensive influence upon him and the fact that it did a great harm to him. To which Lord Henry replies, read the last line here in the passage, "The books that the world calls immoral are books that show the world its own shame." And the most important thing, the most important fact that we must remember here is that Oscar Wilde was a rebellious aesthetic. He was a rebellious aesthetic who believed that art cannot be either moral or immoral. And what is the slogan of aestheticism? You must know that. If you know the slogan of aestheticism, what was that? Art for art's sake. Art for art's sake. And if you know that, you will immediately cross-check option D, which says art cannot be either moral or immoral. Right? I hope that was pretty much clear. Now let's look at another question. This question is from Delhi University's 2017 M.A English Entrance question paper. Let's see what the question says. Which sequence would make a coherent passage from the sequence given below? So you got to match the quotes with the sequence. Statement number 1. Statement number 1 says, earlier, even if questions about colonial power were raised, they were discussed mainly to document official measures and administrative shifts in the structures of the Raj. Statement number 1. Statement number 2 says, from a predominant emphasis on economic issues, there has been a visible shift towards the ideological, cultural, and political dimensions of the colonial encounter. Statement number 3 says, they were unsuccessful in addressing the complexity of colonial power, especially its cultural construction and modes of dissemination. I'll repeat that again for you. They were unsuccessful in addressing the complexity of colonial power, especially its cultural construction and modes of dissemination. Now, statement number 4, it says, much has changed in the study of colonialism since the time when the history of colonial India was plotted in terms of economic drain or the history of administrative change I'll again repeat it for you. Much has changed in the study of colonialism since the time when the history of colonial India was plotted in terms of economic drain or the history of administrative change. We have last statement in this question. It says, such economic statist approaches were common to both colonialist and nationalist historiography. Such economic statist approaches were common to both colonialist and nationalist historiography. Now let's look at the codes and see which code out of the 4 options is the best suited code. Alright, so we've already read the 5 statements. Followed by 5 statements, we have 4 options, that is A, B, C and D. Let's look at these 4 options, these 4 codes, and see which is the best code. Option A, it says 24135. If we read 2 first, that is statement 2, from a predominant emphasis on economic issues, there has been a visible shift towards the ideological, cultural and political dimensions for the colonial encounter. Much has changed, statement 4, much has changed in the study of colonialism since the time when the history of colonial India was plotted in terms of economic drain or the history of administrative change. So you see the pattern doesn't really fit. We first of all say from a predominant emphasis on economic issues, and then we put it like this, much has changed in the study of colonialism. It really doesn't fit very well. So option number A is wrong. Let's look at option B, 14235. Let's read first one. Earlier, even if questions about colonial power were raised, they were discussed mainly to document official measures and administrative shifts in the structures of Raj. All right, let's read statement 4 here. Much has changed in the study of colonialism since the time when the history of colonial India was plotted in terms of economic drain or the history of administrative change. Then we have statement number 2, which says from a predominant emphasis on economic issues. Now you again see the pattern doesn't really fit in. First we are putting up statement 1 and then statement 4 and statement 2. Okay, they don't really fit in together. Then let's read option D, 34152. Let's read option 3 first. They were unsuccessful in addressing the complexity of colonial power, especially its cultural construction and modes of dissemination. Does not really fit at all. The first one does not fit. So option number D is absolutely wrong. Now let's look at option C, which says 42153. 4. Much has changed in the study of colonialism since the time when the history of colonial India was plotted in terms of economic drain or the history of administrative change. Right. Then 2, statement 2, from a predominant emphasis. So you see much has changed. Then we say from a predominant emphasis on economic issues, there has been a visible shift towards the ideological, cultural and political dimensions for the colonial encounter. All right, good going. Then statement number 1, it says earlier, even if questions about colonial power were raised, they were discussed mainly to document official measures and administrative shifts in the structures of the Raj. So you see the pattern, you look at statement number 4 first, much has changed. All right, they're talking about the changes in the study of colonialism. Then they talk about the emphasis on economic issues. Then if you look at statement number 1, which talks about how colonialism was in its early times. So earlier, even if questions about colonial power were raised, again a very valid statement, put in a very right place. Then 5, statement number 5, such economic statist approaches were common to both colonialist and national historiography. Lastly, let's read statement number 3, which says they were unsuccessful in addressing the complexity of colonial power, especially its cultural construction and modes of dissemination. They were what? They were unsuccessful in addressing the complexity of colonial power. Takes us back to the concepts of hybridity by Homi Bhabha. It is a very concluding space. This is the conclusion, and if you understand that, you will immediately cross-check option C, which is 42153, right? Alright, so that's it for today's video. We'll meet soon in the next video. Take care till then.